So after 3 fucking film reviews in a row that we were meh on, now we get to discuss something that I really, really enjoyed, that I have a feeling is going to be one of those movies that people are like, this is dull, that this is, whatever.
Oh.
And this movie is called Shepherd.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you cannot watch this currently right now in the United States. You would have to have like a VPN and watch it on Amazon UK. So if you guys know how to do that, you can watch it, but it should be available to stream here soon enough, I would assume. But this is about a guy who just lost his wife, and he's really depressed, and he ends up taking this job on an island by himself to be a shepherd of sheep. And the only other living being that he takes along with him is his dog, Baxter. And Baxter and him, they get on a boat, they go over to the island, and while he's on there, he's, thinking he's seeing stuff. Of course, he's dealing with mental trauma. This is so my kind of film. This is atmospheric as fuck.
Super atmospheric.
And it has some really great visuals. I really enjoyed the fuck out of this one. This is so my kind of movie. We just watched another movie recently that we both really, really enjoyed that kind of had a similar feel to it. What's that movie called again? The one with the girl in the house? Or in her apartment, locked in there? It's called...
oh my god, we love this one so much too.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm totally
why.
blanking on it. Oh, that's awful.
I'll come up with the title in a minute.
Much, but yes, it does feel very similar to that, where it's like following, pretty much one character.
Mm-hmm.
The entire. I mean, there are other characters, but it's primarily the main character that's carrying the film. His performance is wonderful, and it's very unreliable narrator at times too, which is I'm always a big fan of that concept. And yeah, the atmosphere was wonderful. The visuals were super creepy, and the setting too, like where it takes place, is something that I always love to see because it's so isolated and moody and beautiful. And just very dream and nightmare-y feeling. It has that quality, which is, that surrealism is always something that I think pairs really well with horror, and I love to see it in movies. Because I feel like it's not, it is done, but not for like the whole film, like this one was.
Now, this one definitely has a lower budget, so it does feel just a little bit more independent than, let's say, something like The Witch. But this is absolutely, I don't care what anybody says, even the director, this was absolutely inspired by like Robert Eggers and The Witch, because he even uses Kate Dickie or Katie Dickie. I think it's Kate Dickie. I think it's her name. The woman from The Witch, the woman that is freaking in Game of Thrones. She was just in The Last Jedi that we watched recently.
She's wonderful.
She's all over the damn
She's
place
very talented.
of stuff that we've been watching. And she plays the ferryman that takes him over to the island, and she's got like one dead eye, and she's just great. And she's great in this, as she always is. She has that very authentic old time feeling to her, like her look.
Yes,
for some reason just looks
from a different era.
Yes.
Like from a different time, which is cool.
This is definitely one of those kinds of films where I feel like you should know if you're the audience. Like, if you like films like The Witch, if you like things that are that slower burn, atmospheric, really just kind of focusing on dread and human emotion and loss, and if you're like connected to those kinds of things and you like that style of filmmaking, then this is definitely for you. But if you're someone who finds The Babadook or any of these movies boring, then this is going to be one of those films that you're like, nothing's happening. So this has its audience, and it's that A24 kind of atmospheric slow burn isolation film that, mostly just focuses purely on the emotion and dread.
Yes. Alone with You? That was the other one?
Alone with You.
That's
Thank
the
you.
movie
Yes.
that we really loved.
Similar kind of atmospheric isolation, one character dealing with traumatic things that had happened to her, and reveals that, you can, and okay, as far as like the reveals go and stuff like that, this film is fairly like predictable in that way for me. I didn't feel like anything was like, oh, whoa, really? It didn't have that effect. But I don't care because I didn't need that to work. All I really wanted is I wanted to live in this nightmare, right? It's like the movie Possum. It's just an absolute nightmare throughout. The whole film feels like a dream. It feels like a nightmare. And when a director can properly convey that feeling and emotion that you know from your own personal experience within your dreams, I think they're extremely successful. I think that this director did a fantastic job.
Me too.
And there's and as small as it like budget as it can feel at times, there's also things that happen in here that made me go, how small is this budget? Because there's this island with this lighthouse, and maybe they just found this secluded area and they just filmed there. But then there's a shot of something on the land that he goes and investigates, and it's like shrouded in fog coverage, and it looks so good. Like it's clearly a visual effect, but it's seamless. Yes. And I was like, how'd they do that? That's pretty incredible. So I don't know if this might be one of those freaking Gareth Edwards kind of things where when he was making the movie Monsters, before that he'd worked in visual effects, so he was able to add in all of his own visual effects, like tanks going across the road and monsters being in there, and they were all done by him, right? So he got to, the film didn't cost him anything because it was all his own work. He knew how to do that stuff. So maybe they had a friend that knew how to do it or something. I don't know what the budget. Maybe the budget was high. But I love films that have this very ambitious feeling to them and are clearly independent art house passion projects, like an Evil Within.
God, yeah, and I from what you were saying earlier too about the reveals, I think that there's people that are used to the style of film that can kind of follow the threads and pick it up, earlier on because they're paying attention. But I think that there's also a good amount of people that might not notice those things. Maybe. Which, either way, it's still an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. So, I think you know who you are. If you're like a big fan of A24 movies, this has that feel, but just dialed down one notch as far as production quality. There's something about the way that the actor and everything is being shot that makes it feel just a tad cheaper and not that really high quality Hollywood production look. Which isn't a bad thing by any means. This isn't a knock. This isn't being it's one rung below these movies. I just want that to be known so that if people are watching this, because I've gotten that before, and I've mentioned this movie a lot lately, but I'm going to have to show this to you so you can understand. Like a movie like Dry Blood. I've mentioned this movie a few times recently, where it's got that kind of indie art house feel to it, but it's also got that just a notch under on the production value look of it, but I love it, and I love this. This is definitely, this and Alone with You.
Oh yeah.
Are my and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Those are my top three of the year for sure, and I would be shocked if if one of these doesn't end up in my top 10.
Oh god, yeah.
When I say all three of them up and end up in my top 10, I would be surprised if all three of them do not. But I meant one of the three gets knocked off is what I was trying to say.
I see.
Not only one.
Only one ends up
all
there.
Three of them. If one of them got knocked off, I'd be surprised because these are so my kind of movies. Absolutely. I love shit like this. I love Possum. I love The Witch. I love The Babadook. I love these really slow burn atmospheric movies that are engaging and make me feel like I'm experiencing a full-fledged on-screen nightmare that I'm immersed and sucked into. This is...
It's the best.
Yeah, this is done so well to me.
I agree, yeah.
And I know it will get hated by a large group of people who are like, this is boring, nothing's happening, the performance is this, it's cheap. I can't, I mean, it's fine, that's your opinion. And I can't say anything about it. I just heavily disagree. So, yeah. When it becomes available to you, or if you have access to this, watch it. 100%.
Watch it.
If you're that kind of, if you're into that kind of stuff. If you're more into like the, fast-paced, jump scares every 5 minutes. I want it to be scary, man. It better be scary. It better, better have things thrown at my face every 3 minutes. This isn't your movie.
This is not
your movie. But it's also not like super ultra slow.
No.
Like Sator, Sator, S-A-T-O-R, Sator, I think is what that movie's called. And
Lamb.
Lamb's slower, but I liked Lamb. Sator
I did too, but
is like so fucking slow. I was like, what is happening? Is anything ever gonna happen in this movie? No, and I hate people who say that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying it, it's like, no, for real. Is anything ever gonna happen in this movie?
No, things definitely happen in Shepherd.
100%.
And there's some really good creepy stuff in there, so
yeah,
it's worth your time.
Yep. Let us know if you watch it. Bye.